Hello, everyone. Good morning. I think people are still coming back from the coffee break. Yeah, and I'm hoping that you had a good coffee. Nobody's sleeping. I think we'll just go ahead. Today, we are going to talk about a couple of interesting topics which are correlated to each other, right? So we're talking about how to create customer engagement strategies, the role of analytics and technology in it, and also how to make it more inclusive with the sales representative being included as a part of really creation of your customer engagement strategies. Now, why are we talking about this today? So first of all, we all know the HCP engagement has transformed, right? So we were in an era where primarily we used to use face-to-face engagements as the source of access to the clients. We moved on to the random assortment of multiple channels being exposed to our HCPs. And from there, we have started to move slowly towards a more integrated customer journey or omnichannel call plan as we talk about it. Yeah. As the HCP engagement transformed, so did the analytics and tech support, right? So we saw a lot of improvements and enhancements on the technology side, on the analyst side. So we talk about improvements in CRM, integrations are better and faster. We have a lot of platforms in different spaces within the customer engagement space where you can improve the efficiency of your processes, right? We'll talk about a couple of these things later on in the slides as well. And then when you look at the analytics side of it, a lot of new things which were kind of alien to pharmaceutical industry started to kind of come into action as well. We saw unsupervised learning being used to create customer segments. We saw data being more cleaner through the use of supervised learning algorithms, predictions being used, and so on and so forth, right? So everything started to move a little bit. And the role of sales rep changed as well, right? So whether you talk about customer-facing MSLs or the roles of sales rep, it kind of moved. We started talking about the orchestration, right, through the sales rep for all the different channels that we are actually exposing to our HCPs with the support of course, headquarters, marketing, omnichannel colleagues, and the digital colleagues. But not everybody moved at the same pace, right? So today, when we look at our clients, we look at everybody's in different stages, right? So you have most of the people when we started before COVID were all in early stages. When the COVID hit, we were really, struggling a little bit, and we were just trying our hands on everything that we could, right? So trying and expose the HCPs to different channels, see what works, what not. Later on, we started to become a little bit more organized, a little bit more structural. We started to put the infrastructure, our let's say, technology infrastructure, our platforms, etc., into place to create a little bit more engaged omni-channel strategy. And the aim for every company is really to become optimized, where they have flawless processes, they have all the technology set up, and basically they have systematic, let's say, correlation between different parts of this puzzle, right? Now, I can speak a lot longer and speak the whole day about how to reach from early stage to optimized stage, but what I would really like to do today is pass on the stage to Samir, who is from Gilead Asia, and this is a guy who has really done something about it. So we're going to present a case study to you of Gilead Asia and how did they experience the journey over the past 5 or 6 years. Yeah, Samir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil. So good morning, everybody. Firstly, I'm a first-timer here, so thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present my experience on customer engagement. So I'm working with Gilead, and I'm based out of Asia in Hong Kong. So I traveled 19 hours to get here to share this with you, and tomorrow I will travel 19 hours to go back. So thank you very much. So look, so what I have with you is an actual case study that I've been working on since I joined the organization in 2020. So it's actually 4 years of experiences that I'm going to be sharing with you. It's not just one pilot. But what I'd like to share with you is this customer engagement evolution. When we first started thinking about customer engagement, the first question we really had to ask ourselves is going back to the basics. What do we really know about our customers? What do we understand about them before we start talking about technology and some of the other great things that we get spoken to about in our industry? Really, what is the customer's view on this? So we started from a very basic segmentation, and we evolved this into a fully involved and integrated customer engagement. And this is the journey that I want to talk to you about today. So when I joined, as I said, in 2020, I could see that we had already developed a segmentation of some sort. However, it's very basic. It had some strengths. I mean, it gave us something, but it was really a once-a-year process. A once-a-year process that measured our HCPs really on potential. And by that, I mean, how many patients does the doctor have? This didn't allow us to really develop segments strategically, and it was very time-consuming because it was a manual process using Excel, so it didn't have a lot of engagement from our salespeople, which we know is a critical component of the data to formulate the segments. So the first thing we needed to do was to make this process a little bit easier to get more buy-in. So one of the things I did, and this is why I'm standing here with Xcellen, is we acquired the XPower platform. This XPower platform enabled us to automate the process. So what it gave us was this end-to-end segmentation and targeting process that really reduced that analytical burden that I just spoke to you about. It also enabled greater sales collaboration. What we saw with this was a 50%, more than 50% efficiency in the processing time. And when I actually measured it, and these are my measures based on one particular country that we did this in, we went from 15 weeks to 8 weeks to run this process. And we saw significant improvements in the data collection, but especially in the data validation, and also in the segmentation simulation. So it really helped us in these three areas to really automate a process. After we have this, we have a lot more time. We have a lot more engagement from our salespeople because the process is easier. What do? We start to make this segmentation and targeting a bit more involving, a bit more aligned to our strategy. So we started to bring in more dimensions, and we brought in the behavioral dimension. This really proved to be a bit of a turning point for us in terms of using segmentation and targeting, because we were now able to really effectively design messages towards customers' prescribing behaviors. In 2021, some of you, obviously we recall COVID from 2020. However, in some of the countries in Asia that I work in, such as Taiwan, Korea, for example, there was a delayed impact on COVID. They had very stringent regulations before, and the impact was a bit delayed. So in 2021, we had to look at our customers a little bit differently because the impact of COVID meant there were different expectations from the HCP, and we needed to change our operating model at that point and adopt a more omnichannel approach. So one of the things we did was we looked back at our customers, what we understood about them. Using the platform again, we developed customer personas. Those personas were then now measuring these customers based on their channel preferences and also their content preferences. And this was done in the platform using an unsupervised machine learning algorithm. So this enabled us in this particular therapy area, and this is a live segmentation that we still operate with, 5 distinct segments. Now, there's a lot of science behind that. I am not the technologist. I'm the person in the organization in the commercial setting, so I'll ask Sid to talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Samir. So basically, I will not go too much into details because it's very technical in nature, but essentially what Samir mentioned, we started utilizing unsupervised learning algorithms. Again, they are, as NVIDIA puts it now, conventional AI, so there are a lot of those algorithms. So we started using clustering algorithms, but then because the data quality was very good. We also have other algorithms. If the data quality is not very good, you should use matrix factorization, those kind of approaches, if the quality you're not confident with. In clustering also, we have like more details, hierarchical, DB, a lot of details, so I will not bore you with that. The idea was whatever data that we had available, we wanted to utilize it. So it was a combination of all the activity data, so CRM data, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and then we have third-party webinar data or third-party events that they had done, basically. We brought all that data in. Apart from that, we also had to do some manual tagging of content. So each touch point, what kind of content was utilized in that specific touch point across that channel. So for example, over here, you can see that the system, or the X-Power Boost system, it developed 3 personas for channel. The first one, you can immediately see it's much more webinar focused. The doctors, HCPs basically. Cluster 3 is similar across all channels. Same way when we look at content, cluster 3 responsive to all type of information, cluster 4 more to strategy and clinical. So that way the system was able to help us decide what are those clusters across channel and as well as content. Another thing I'd just like to mention, just for the understanding of marketeers, we had to do some, what we call, on the right side, simple dimension reduction, basically, so that the marketeers can understand how the data looks like. So that's the PCA analysis that we did. So the idea, again, as Samir mentioned, was to make these channel and content clusters, work with marketing to combine to make, actual personas with which we can deliver the right journey or right messages, right content, right touch points to them, essentially.
So look, so you can see where we've gone so far with this journey. We've collected a lot of information from where we were on our customers in terms of their potential, their adoption, their behavior, their customer personas, their channel presence, their content preferences. So what do we need to do now? So let's pilot this. Let's pilot this and understand the quality of our segmentation and how valid it is. So we developed a customer journey. You may be familiar with this. So this customer journey that we developed, and I've actually blanked out the content of the journey itself because I think my competitor's sitting here as well. But what we did is we picked one particular segment. It was called the knowledge seeker, and we understood from them what are their channel preferences, what are their content preferences, what are the messages they would be receptive to, and we developed this 10-week customer journey looking at what would be the channels that we would use with them, when we would use it. And it was a journey. So based on their response to certain activity, they would move in a different journey from each other. So that was what we developed. We developed it for one segment, but because it's a pilot and because we're quite new, we didn't restrict this just to that segment when we piloted it. We also picked physicians from the other segments as well. This enabled us to really measure the quality of our segmentation as well. And one thing I like to do is measure. I work in commercial excellence, so this is a key part of what we do. And we measured this. So what were the results that were coming out of this engagement journey at the end of the 10 weeks? What I measured was their engagement to those particular channels. And what we could actually see, this is real data, this is not something that I made up and I didn't know what it was going to come out with, is that the channels that they engaged with was quite positively correlated with what they said they would engage with based on the customer personas that our machine learning algorithm had given us. So if you look at, for example, the knowledge seekers, which is the one that we really tested this on, their attendance to the webinars was very high, which is what they said they would do. Conversely, the reserved connectors who said that they would not be open to webinars, well, that was what we actually saw, that they didn't really engage very much with it. So the HCP segmentation was validated with the actual engagement behavior, but it wasn't perfect. So in the case of email open rates, I mean, one thing that we saw that I didn't expect was that their open rate was a little bit higher than what they said that it would be. So what this says is we need to continually improve our segmentation, and we can improve it with the actual engagement behavior that they're now providing us with to refine it further. So what I would say is the micro-segmentation that we did, or the customer personas as I call them, this is essential for an omnichannel strategy. So we shouldn't be building that kind of journey and putting customers through it without having a very detailed understanding of that customer, which is not a one-off exercise. It's something that we've been doing over a number of years. And just to talk a little bit about the platform, it really was a user-friendly tool. Sitting in the office, we are not technologists, but we bought this platform, and it was quite easy for my team to actually use it themselves. And they're not IT experts as well. So that really helped us refine this art. So just talking a little bit about how these journeys were put together, maybe I'll put it back to Sid.
I'll not bore you too much with technical details, but just step-by-step process. Basically, we always recommend in a journey, it's a 3-step process. We started with long-term plan. You need to have long-term plan because not all the channels will have immediate ROI. They will have carryovers, they will take a long time to get the ROI, right? So we started with channel mix optimization to understand what is the ROI of channel, how can we optimize our channel usage to ensure that we have the right channel mix, essentially. And it's a long-term plan, so 9 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, that should be the plan. Once we had that long-term plan with the response curves, we know where the investment is going, how much we are investing. We then go into the OCCP design. This is by cycle, essentially. So this is where you look at other things. So apart from the channel mix output, you also look at, okay, what was delivered last year, same time. If you are Q1 in China or Asia region, we have Tet holidays or Chinese New Year. A lot of face-to-face activity decreases during that time. So a lot of email activity is happening. So looking at last year, what has happened, what you have already delivered, basically, looking at the persona and everything, we were able to develop an objective plan. So it's more of like, hey, this is a customer, knowledge seeker, you need to have 4 emails, 6 face-to-face, blah, blah, blah. The whole plan, but more objective numbers, which I'm pretty sure most of you have the MCCP, which goes into Viva also, essentially, right? The third part is that once you have done that part, you basically try to develop the overall journey. And for journey also, we develop our own internal algorithms in XPower Boost. The idea was to create micro journeys and measure the impact of these micro journeys. So it could be face-to-face, email, face-to-face, those kind of things, essentially. And then trying to optimize across the touch points that we have got from the OCCP. That was the way where we went from channel mix to shorter objective plan to building a journey by segment, by persona, essentially, for each of those customers moving forward. And the idea now is, which Samir will talk about, is how reps come in now to orchestrate that journey, essentially.
So we're now in 2024. So, from where we've come, what do we need to do next? What is sitting in my objective to do that I will need to report on by the end of the year? So it's really about bringing our sales reps back in as the orchestrators of this. So what I'd shared with you was a pilot where we had a fixed customer journey over 10 weeks based on a particular segment that we implemented as is. What we'd really like to do now is to have the sales reps come into the process to make some changes to that journey based on the segments that we have. So we will have these 4 segments, we will have journeys created by marketing for them, but to have the sales reps within some confined limits to make some changes to that based on the insights that they have on their customers and based on insights that we will provide at an individual level. So some of that information we will be providing to them, and again, it's through the platform, which makes everything very easy, is they'll have the customer personas, they'll have the value segments, they'll have the KPIs, they'll have the previous engagement data, and with all of that data and their knowledge, they can make their adjustments to that journey, which will enable the sales rep to buy in. For those of us that work in sales and marketing, you will understand the critical importance of having your sales rep buy into this process. So this will enable them to be the key orchestrators. So this is something that we are developing right now. It's in development, it's being programmed. We're very fortunate that we can provide the feedback to the product of XPower to make those adjustments based on what we believe would be right for the market. And we're hoping to implement it by the summer, and if I get an invite next year, I'd be happy to share the results of where that leads. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
So no question?
No? Oh.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one is around segmentation. In Biogen, we run a similar process. And one of the issues we face is that we use historical data for the channel affinity segmentation, and that means that we incorporated our own bias, right? Because sometimes our reps do not use certain channels, so that HCP cannot open an email because never receive an email. So how did you break that? Right, that's my first question. And the second question is around the platform that you are developing for the rep orchestration. Is that being developed in-house, or you use any vendor or supplier? We did it in-house. I can share with you my experience on that. And it's definitely a game changer in our orchestration. So congratulations for that. Sorry, 2 questions.
I will do the second one, you do the first one, okay?
You can do both.
Okay, I can do both. I think you're right. We don't have real-time data anyways coming in. It will take time for us to get that data and process that data, essentially. I think it will take another 3-4 years or two years to go to that process where we can have monthly, churning of personas or segments taking place. The problem with that is also you need to keep your track of KPIs because the rep has certain KPIs for a cycle, for a year. You don't want to change them so often that things get too much deviated from the initial plan that you had created, right? What we recommend to our clients is based on your country-to-country basis. So there are some countries, I've talked about Asia or Eastern Europe also. There are some countries where the change post-COVID happening very fast. So you need to do every 6 months this persona identification, essentially. So, and that's the idea with our platform, XPower Boost, that you build your own recipes. And once you have done that, every 6 months you can review that process much faster than hiring a consulting company to do the overall process again, which is the usual process, how we do it, right, basically. So that's the first question. And the second question is, actually, we are the vendors. And so we are developing the solution. So we are the vendors. So we are basically developing, and this solution has been utilized across 50 markets. So Gilead is one of the companies. There's another company which is doing customer journey essentially. So we are incorporating inputs for multiple companies to ensure that we get the output correctly. Because one output will go into your Viva MCCP, which is the objective output. But then the other output needs also to go somewhere where the rep can also see the overall how the journey orchestration looks like when he's in the field implementing it essentially.
So just one thing to add. So I'm from the pharma company that's working with them. Yes, we can do things internally as well, and we use Viva. That also has segmentation, a platform to do this. However, what we have here is a very bespoke package that's designed to do that one particular job rather than do a number of things that a CRM can do. So there are inbuilt functions in there that can validate the data, bring out logic statements where things are illogical as well. It has so many features that enable you to improve the quality of the segmentation. And we've been measuring the segmentation year after year and improving it. So the platform gives us more than internal platforms that can do segmentation. It has a number of features that enable us to improve the quality of it and measure it as well, quite religiously. And for me, I've been doing segmentation targeting for many years. I'm very passionate about it. That's why I've been working on it for 4 years, and I'll be working on it continuously. And I need the best tools for that.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh, another one.
Thank you. One question from my side. You mentioned that you use a lot of data for the micro-segmentation, amongst others. How would you deal with situations where you have less data, for example, specialty care, new launch, where you don't have a lot of affinity or characteristics data of HCPs? That's one side of the question. Second side of the question is, like, if you have all of this data that you collect, how would you deal with out-of-comfort recommendations? For example, you want to stretch, you've never seen behavior before, but you might think it could be relevant. So if you do what you've always done, then you might not find out. So 2 questions. What is the situation of less data? And the second question is, like, how would you deal with out-of-comfort recommendations?
Sorry, what is the second one? I didn't understand the second one.
For example, if you go to a shoe retailer, at some point you can get recommended a pair of shoes because of your previous purchase behavior.
Yeah.
But what about maybe shoes you never bought but that might fit well?
Okay, so the first, I think the first is less data. So that is a very good question. There are a couple of ways to sort it. Like, we see companies using reps to capture customer preferences as a starting point, and then starting utilizing, channels to basically optimize in 6 months using the actual data, essentially. So that's one way. My recommendation is, if you don't want to utilize reps, because I still am a little bit hesitant about collecting preference data because the doctor might say something, but might not do something. I always believe if you have already the consent, start with the activity. At least start doing something so that you start collecting, because a lot of people are waiting to do something. But at the same time, you need to do something to get some results out, right? So you get consent. Once you have consent, you start doing, inviting them to webinars, doing SFMC, doing the email campaigns, all those things you start doing. Eventually, in 6 to 8 months, you will start collecting that data automatically, and then you can start, having more personalized communication with the customers, essentially.
Now, I can give an example of one of the companies that we work with where data was an issue as well. So what we did was, instead of actually just talking to one country, we went to the whole Pacific Asia region where there were 10 countries. And we collected data from all of them, and point by point, what happened was, collectively the data became a little bit more bigger to train the algorithms. And they had some market research data as well, right? So, and that can be projected on, let's say you have only it for 5% or 7% of the sample, and you can actually project it over the next 20%, 25%, and that starts to build your base, which gives you the first-hand, segmentation or personification, where you can now go and start doing some activities. And once you do that, you're starting to build your actual engagement data over a period of time. 6 to 9 months of engagement data is good enough to kind of give you a very good view on how your customers would respond to your engagements.
There's a lot of other things you do. So primarily, we're a virology company, but we've just moved into the oncology space, which you may be familiar with. So this is a new area for us. So that's a very live question for us. So we're also acquiring customer lists. There's some very good quality data there from some of the vendors that we can buy. So we can start to use some of the initial variables from that to plug into XPower to create some segmentation. But obviously, you will need to refine that as your field reps also start to go out and see these customers and collect more data. But that's an approach that we're taking, is to acquire some of that data to put into the platform.
Just remember one thing: if you don't have the data, your competitors also don't have the data. So the field is level playing, right? So that's the good part of it. A lot of clients complain, but yeah, you have to start somewhere because you're also competing with the other companies who also do not have the data. So there's nobody who's at advantage. The people who really take the plunge and start doing something about it will get further.
But that will depend if you have like the first launch in a new therapeutic area with competitors.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We are booth 18, so just come by if you have anything.
I think
there's another.
they would have a next presentation. I don't know if we can take a question. Dario, are we done? We can't take any more questions, guys, but you can come and visit our booth. We are still there for the whole day. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.